Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, I want to thank the Minister for allowing us to have this debate. It's the best debate on housing that I can remember in 8 years in this House. And it's been, I think it's been very illuminating, actually, because in this housing legislation amendment bill debate, it has contrasted two contrasting approaches. The first is one very narrow policy approach based on the idea of drawing some lines on a map and declaring these to be fast-tracked consenting zones. That, in essence, is the Minister's special housing area policy. That has been the main solution that he's offered up to a housing crisis that now grips the country and has given us the most unaffordable housing in the world. It's based on the idea that the problem, the cause of the housing crisis, is slow consenting by councils. And I think if it's not clear to you by now that that is not in fact the root cause of the housing crisis, then you, and I don't mean you, Mr. Chairman, have not been paying attention. Because if the slow rate of council consenting was the cause of the housing crisis, then the special housing areas would have made a much bigger difference in the 3 years since the Minister unveiled that policy. In the debate we've had this afternoon, Nick Smith's special housing areas have been contrasted with a broad and deep reform agenda backed by the opposition parties in this House who will form the next government. We have proposed to this House the building of 100,000 affordable homes for first home buyers. We've proposed, and National voted against that. National and ACT voted against that. We've proposed taxing speculators. National voted against that. We proposed banning non-resident foreign buyers from buying existing houses, sir. National voted against that. We proposed a bold and radical new approach to managing urban growth, to reduce the cost of urban land and produce more competitive urban land markets that would lower the cost of housing, and National voted against that. We proposed to change the law to stop the government using our public housing organisation as a cash cow in the way that they have withdrawn $500 million out of Housing New Zealand in the middle of a housing crisis, and National voted against that. And we proposed to this House a comprehensive approach to strengthening the system of emergency housing, because on this side of the House, we believe it is totally unacceptable for kids in this country to be growing up in cars and caravan parks. But National and their subsidiary brand, ACT, have voted against every single one of those proposals. But the reason that Nick Smith brought us here in the last 24 hours, 36 hours to debate this bill is that he wants to roll over his special housing areas, a measure that he described 3 years ago as an interim measure. He has asked us to roll that over for another 3 years. And, sir, we agreed to that because we didn't want to inconvenience the 8 developers who otherwise would suffer because of Nick Smith's incompetence, because he failed to anticipate the transition issues associated with the demise of the special housing areas. So 2 very contrasting approaches to dealing with this housing crisis. It's appropriate, I want to argue, sir, for the broad systemic approach that is embodied in the range of housing reform proposals that we have debated here this afternoon. It's appropriate because the housing market is a system. It is an economic system that involves the government, councils, landowners, developers, builders, homeowners, renters. It is a complex system that lies at the heart of the well-being of our people, our families, our communities, and our economic prosperity as a nation. But it is broken. It requires a deep systemic approach to fix it, and it's only the policies of the parties on this side of the House that offer that. People have a deep, basic need for shelter, for good quality, affordable and accessible housing. They are not getting that under this Minister of Housing and this National Government. It's time for a change.